Our top focus story, the CAG report has credited the Narendra Modi government with better pricing, India-centric enhancements and faster delivery of the 36 Rafale jets. But it has questioned the government on absence of sovereign guarantees and selection of only 36 aircraft instead of the initial proposal for 126. The report is also scathing in its indictment of the manner in which the Indian Air Force went ahead with the selection process initially and the final conclusion of the deal. As a result, the Indian Air Force has reached a situation that today it's in the market to buy even second-hand aircraft, whether it's MiG-29 air superiority fighters or old airframes, cannibalizing parts of Jaguars to shore up its falling squadron strength.
The much-awaited Comptroller and Auditor General report on Rafale aircraft deal has been tabled in the Parliament. Submitted on the last day of the 2019 budget session, India's top audit watchdog in its report has said the NDA Rafale deal inked in 2016 is 2.8% cheaper than what the Congress-led UPA had negotiated in 2000. The Defence Ministry has been arguing that the 2016 contracted price of 36 basic aircraft was 9% lower than the 2007 price. However, the CAG audit report found that the basic flyaway aircraft were bought at the same price as that of 2007. The report further states that 17% cost was saved on India's specific enhancements. The report, however, doesn't mention the exact price of the Rafale jets.
While the government is claiming victory over the CAG report on Rafale, the opposition is dismissing it for masking prices and for the waiver secured by Dassault Aviation from providing any sovereign guarantee in the deal struck by the NDA. With both sides claiming vindication, the Rafale dogfight is only likely to get more intense in the run-up to the 2019 polls.
On terms of faster delivery, the CAG gives the government credit for shaving off 1 month in the delivery time for the jets that were bought for urgent requirements. The CAG has also said in the report that the government could have used comparative pricing from the unsolicited offer by Eurofighter to determine a better price. The CAG report also talks about why HAL lost the deal. According to the CAG report, HAL had sought more time for production, which would have led to increase in total price of the deal.
The CAG report states that it wasn't easy to compare prices of 2007 and 2015. While the finding that the deal is 2.8% cheaper will certainly give some relief to the Narendra Modi government, but certain key findings in the report will also provide ammunition to the opposition to continue with its attack. With Paulami Saha in Delhi, Abhishek Bhalla for India Today.
Joining me now on the broadcast, two officers who were an integral part of negotiations with the French on the acquisition of these Rafale jets. Air Marshal SBP Sinha, former chairman of the Indian negotiation team, and Air Marshal Nirdosh Tyagi, former deputy chief of air staff, someone who was a part of the negotiations at a different point of time. But before I come to these two gentlemen, let's take a look at the attack and the counter-attack. The Congress, the BJP, the opposition's charge and the government's counter-charge.
Well, the CAG report has completely vindicated the stand of the NDA government. The Congress president had manufactured a statistic, 500 versus 1600, a data which doesn't exist anywhere on any record. And on that manufactured data, he repeated that lie ad nauseum to the country on various occasions.
Raksha Mantri FM and Modi ji made different statements on price, and they said that the new deal is between 9% and 20% better in financial terms. So the CAG report is saying that they lied in the first place. We don't agree with the 2.5%. But even what they are saying is calling Mr. Narendra Modi's and Raksha Mantri's bluff, and I think they made this statement in Parliament, if I'm not mistaken.
सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने भी साफ कर दिया, जो बातें थी वो स्पष्ट कर दी। सीएजी ने रिपोर्ट में साफ कह दिया, उससे सस्ता हुआ है हवाई जहाज, इसमें कोई करप्शन नहीं है, कोई गलत काम नहीं हुआ है। आज हमारे देश के डिफेंस की महत्वपूर्ण विषयों का राजनीतिकरण करना उचित नहीं है। मुझे लगता है कि अब कांग्रेस पार्टी कम से कम सीएजी और सुप्रीम कोर्ट के डिसीजन के बाद देश के हित में इस विषय को समाप्त करे, इसका राजनीतिकरण ना करे।
60,000 करोड़ में हम लोग खरीद रहे थे 126 हवाई जहाज, 60,000 करोड़ में ये खरीद रहे हैं 36 हवाई जहाज। सीएजी जो कि एक एक पाई का हिसाब रखना चाहिए, वो तो अपने कर्तव्यों पर पूरा खरा नहीं उतरा है इस मामले में। और अब पब्लिक अकाउंट्स कमेटी इसको देखेगी, सीएजी को बुलाएगी, पूछेगी बताइए कहाँ कम हुआ।
अगर कोई भी सामान्य राजनीतिक दल का व्यक्ति भी, संसद सदस्य, वो कोर्ट में अपना अपील की हो, आरोप लगाया हो सरकार पे, सुप्रीम कोर्ट खारिज कर दे, फ्रांस की सरकार खारिज कर दे, फिर भी पागल की तरह रफेल रफेल रफेल, सीएजी पर भरोसा नहीं, तब तो कांग्रेस पार्टी के किसी ऑडिटर से इसको ऑडिट कराने पर ही उनको भरोसा होगा।
मैं समझता हूं अगर जेपीसी होती तो लोगों को भी ये मालूम होता कि भाई है क्या मामला, क्यों छुपाना है किसी चीज को। अगर इसमें कोई चीज ऐसी नहीं है जो गड़बड़ की गई है तो लाना चाहिए लोगों के सामने। आजकल इंडिया इज अ डेमोक्रेसी, ट्रूथ मस्ट बी टोल्ड टू द पीपल।
राहुल गांधी लगातार झूठ बोल रहे हैं, लगातार झूठ बोलना, लगातार झूठ बोलना, उनको लज्जा भी नहीं आती। जिस ढंग से राफेल वाले मामले में उन्होंने झूठ बोला है, वो ये याद रख लें कि सूरज के ऊपर अगर थूकेंगे तो थूक उनके चेहरे पर ही आएगा।
ऐसा हो सकता है डिफेंस मिनिस्ट्री के से पूरा पेपर जो है वो पूरा पेपर इनका पास गया नहीं, ये भी हो सकता। और ये भी हो सकता है इसको छुपाने के लिए गवर्नमेंट की तरफ से कोई प्रेशर आ गया। जेपीसी होना चाहिए, जेपीसी नहीं होगा तो ये कैग रिपोर्ट देख के आप लोग का मालूम नहीं होगा क्या घोटाला हुआ।
You've heard the politics, now hear the experts, the Indian Air Force. Air Marshal Sinha, to you first. Your first take on the CAG report, sir. The NDA deal that was negotiated, CAG says that's 2.86% cheaper than the UPA's proposed deal. But clearly, sir, not 9% cheaper as the government had claimed.
If you go through the entire CAG report, it brings out that the bare aircraft cost was 9% cheaper. And it has made a table where it has shown that some elements were cheaper, some are slightly higher and some were at the same cost, and are arrived at this figure of 2.8%. I think this 2.8% is a matter of debate. I am sure that the ministry will sit with CAG and discuss this issue across the table and validate the actual figures as has been arrived by MOD earlier.
Air Marshal Tyagi, even the weaponized aircraft the government had claimed was 20% cheaper than the deal that was being negotiated in the UPA era. This finds no mention in the CAG reports, sir. So was the government exaggerating then?
No, it's not correct to say government was exaggerating because, you know, the point-to-point comparisons are difficult. Comparisons between two schemes where the deliverables are not identical are impossible unless you know exactly what was being sought. So comparisons are difficult. What Air Marshal Sinha is saying is based on his involvement. He was the head of the Indian negotiating team. So what he says remains authentic. But my point is different. You see, this whole story started with an allegation that it's a big scam of the century and whatnot. Now, if today we are discussing whether it should be 2.88 or it should be 9, I think the whole thing has fallen flat. You know, those who are making allegations that it's a scam, I don't think CAG report anywhere refers to any scam. Okay. You know, there are issues, there are observations on procedure, which is it is CAG's job to point those out. But I don't think there is any smell of scam anywhere.
Okay, so you're saying there's no scam, and that is what the CAG report proves. Now the Congress Air Marshal Sinha is attacking the Modi government for a longer delivery period as compared to the deal that the UPA was negotiating. It didn't conclude it, it was only negotiating, especially in the context of India-centric enhancements, sir?
No, the delivery period is close to 7 months shorter. But what happens is, after we get the aircraft, the India-specific enhancement, the software for that will be loaded slightly later, and that is how the actual loading as compared to the previous one reduces the gap between the delivery of aircraft. But the actual delivery aircraft, the time saved is much closer to 7 months.
Okay. Okay, but Marshal Sinha, if I may bring you in, since you were the chairman of this negotiation team, former Finance Minister P. Chidambaram has claimed that there are no sovereign guarantees, no escrow account. The NDA deal, he is alleged, does not protect India's interests should there be a default from Dassault Aviation.
Yeah, first and foremost, this statement is not right, because India's interests have been protected in all G2G agreements that have happened before this with US and Russian governments, and even in the S-400 contract which has happened after this. So there has been no escrow account, there has been no bank guarantees and no sovereign guarantees. As far as DPP is concerned, it gives a format for a bank guarantee for a vendor and not for a government. The word sovereign guarantee does not exist in the DPP, and para 72 very clearly talks about an assurance from the other government to protect our interests in case the contract runs into unforeseen problems. And that has been met by a letter of assurance, which the French government calls it a letter of comfort, which is signed by none other than the Prime Minister of France.
Okay.
So if you look at the dictionary meaning of sovereign, it means a head of a state or a monarch or a king or a queen. So the letter of assurance or the letter of comfort from the Prime Minister of France can be taken as a sovereign letter of assurance, a sovereign assurance. And this protects our interest. We need to take into account that India and France have had very long strategic partnership.
Okay.
And they cannot renege on the assurance given by their Prime Minister.
Okay, but
because it will have tremendous impact on the relations between the two countries and the trade between the two countries.
Okay, but isn't that based, Marshal Tyagi, only on hope that France will not go back on its promises, or another government will respect and honor the word of this Prime Minister? That's the charge that's being leveled by the opposition, that instead of going in for a bank guarantee or a sovereign guarantee, the government just relied on a letter of comfort. There was dissent, but the government still went ahead, and here fingers are being pointed at the Prime Minister's office.
The nature of dealing with another government in a G2G agreement is different for each country. And as brought out by Marshal Sinha, in case of Russia and in case of US, where we deal with government to government quite often, the procedures are in one case very well defined, in another case based on tradition. Now in case of France, if the Prime Minister has signed a letter of comfort, I think it's absolutely adequate. And in addition to that, I want to comment on another aspect about this delivery schedule.
Yes.
You see, delivery schedule starts with T, which is the time when contracting is done. In the other deal, the contract was not going through. So T would have started whenever the contract ultimately got concluded, and that could have been 3 years from now, 4 years from now. One can never say, because there was a deal of aerial refuelers which was started in 2006.
Yes.
It is still not concluded. So you got to, when you look at timeline, you also got to take into account it's not only 7 months, which Air Marshal Sinha said. It is actually from a firm date, which is now known. In the other case was open-ended. It could have been any time, and the delay could have been more than a year, more than 2 years.
And on India first, we have experts. We don't believe in political tutu-mein point scoring. What is good for our country? Who better than those who bleed for our country, who fight for our country, two air warriors, to explain this case to us? And Marshal Sinha, both of you are fighter pilots. Now, it's also being said that there was a Eurofighter, it gave this unsolicited offer of a 20% rate reduction. Could that have been leveraged to bring down the prices of the Rafale?
The unsolicited offer of Eurofighter of 20% could not be accepted based on various existing government guidelines. And this was extraneous to the procurement of 36 Rafale that was happening with France. And the process for arriving at better terms and conditions, the basis for that was the MMRCA procurement, which was the datum where the prices had been discovered through a multi-vendor L1 procurement process. So that was the basis to bring down the costs and improve the terms of the procurement.
Okay. Marshal Sinha, there's another point that's repeatedly been raised, that within your team or within this team of negotiators, there was a dissent note. There were complaints of interference by the PMO made by the Defense Secretary. So the dissent note, the opposition is using this to question the deal. Now, I want to know from you, as someone who headed that negotiations, was there dissent, and was it steamrolled to go ahead with the deal after PMO's alleged interference?
I have said earlier, and I repeat it, that I guarantee that there was no interference from any agency, including MOD and PMO. First of all, what has been selectively leaked in the Hindu newspaper is with a malified intent to somehow scuttle this procurement to benefit the competing bidders in the 114 aircraft procurement, so that if Rafale goes out from this, it cannot take part even in that procurement. The 3 members of the Indian negotiating team were not dissenters, and neither is the note a note of dissent. This was their concerns, joint concerns, which they put it down in writing. And this note of theirs is an annexure to the Indian negotiating team report, which was put up for the information of the higher authorities in the approval chain.
Okay.
But this was at a point in time. Subsequently, as the negotiations progressed, these 3 members were fully with the team, and therefore the final report of the team was signed by all 7 members without any concerns and without any dissent. And the same Indian negotiating team report has been approved in the Ministry of Defence and Ministry of Defence Finance without any negative observations by any of the higher-ups within these 2 organizations.
Marshal Tyagi, closing comments to you. Does this report then take away from the allegations that have been leveled by the opposition that there's corruption in this deal? Also the fact that there's been so much delay. The CAG report points out to the huge delays, perhaps now forcing you to buy second-hand, aircraft, whether it's a MiG-29 that was lying mothballed in Russia or old Jaguar airframes and engines from UK and France?
I have said all along that there is no basis for these allegations are baseless. Anything, and CAG report proves that, Supreme Court judgment proves that, and I am confident that the deal was transparent, the price negotiated was the best price, and the procedure has been followed, and there is no favor to any party. These are the things which everyone should be clear about, and I don't see anything wrong with what has been done. It's absolutely transparent and good process.
Okay, Marshal Sinha and Marshal Tyagi, for the moment, many thanks for joining me here on India First, because that's the aim. It's country above politics.
Thanks for watching the video. For more such news and updates, please like, share and subscribe to India Today. Also check out our other great videos from our channel. We know you will love to.